right, y'all. So today we are going to be doing some pre-reading, and we are adding this to our close reading process. So I know when I close read, right, I read a text multiple times. So I am going through this text multiple times to make sure I truly understand what is happening. And a part of that pre-reading process is some pre-reading things, y'all. So when I hear the word pre-reading, I know pre means before, right? So this is something that I do before I start to read the text. And when I read, I decode or sound out the words to understand. This is the key part here, especially as we get older. We are no longer decoding these words and sounding out each of the words. We should be reading that text fluently so that we can understand what is happening inside of the text. So as I pre-read, I am going to be asking myself a few questions like, what is the title? What is the genre? What is the structure of the text? And all of these things, I am not reading yet. All of these things I'm going to answer just by looking at the text. So let's look at this text here. It is called A Winning Visit. This is what the text is looking like. So we have 2 pages of text here. And we can notice some things about the text, right? So looking here, we see the title. Title is major key. The title, whether the text is fiction, and I think about fiction, fiction, that means it is fake. It is a made up text. Or whether it is nonfiction, this means it is real. This is real life text, y'all. So whether the text is fiction, fake, or nonfiction, real, the title is going to help me to understand what the text is mostly about. The text or the title is going to give me a huge hint at what the main idea or what the text is mostly about. So when I look here, A Winning Visit, I want to use my prior knowledge, what I already know about the title, to help me better understand the text. So A winning visit. When something is won, I usually think of good things, right? Like I have gained something, I won something, like winning a race or winning a competition. I'm doing something where I get a good result. And I think like a visit is like when you go somewhere. We visit different cities for spring break. My husband and I, we visited New Orleans. So we are visiting somewhere. It's kind of like I'm going somewhere. So I am already thinking my character or whoever this text is about, they are going to go somewhere and something good is going to happen. I'm already starting to think about the text just by reading the title. And I have some ideas going on in my brain. So as I'm reading, my brain does not have to work as hard because I've already set my brain up. I've situated myself as a reader to understand what is happening, okay? So I kind of have this idea going on in my head. Someone's going to go somewhere and something good is going to happen because of where they have went. Now, I'm going to ask myself, is this story fiction or is it nonfiction? So here, I know a fiction story follows what we call the narrative arc, right? So, or sometimes we call this plot, the events that happen in the story. So I know that a fiction story is going to have characters, it's going to have a setting, it's going to have a plot, there's going to be some things going on. And I also know that fiction or narratives usually have like a problem and a solution. So something is going to go wrong and somehow it is going to be fixed. So I am thinking about things like that as I am reading a fiction text. This is why I want to ask myself this question, because when I'm thinking about fiction, I'm thinking about characters. I'm thinking about setting. I'm going to ask myself, what is the setting? What is the plot? What's happening? What's the problem and solution in this text? What is the theme, the lesson, or the moral that the character learns from the text? Whereas if I look at my text and I see that it is fiction, I'm going to ask myself some different questions. So if it's fiction, I'm going to ask myself things like, what's the main idea? What's the author's purpose? I might be thinking about pie, y'all. Remember, pie is persuade, inform, or entertain. These are the reasons why authors typically write nonfiction texts, right? I could be thinking about authors' reasons and evidence. When I have a nonfiction text, I have a totally different lens that I am reading this text in. So what we're going to do, because remember, we are pre-reading. We are pre-reading here, which means we are not going into the text yet. Pre-reading means we are doing these things before we read. I'm going to figure out, is this fiction or nonfiction before I read the text? So one thing I'm seeing here, I see some character names here. A lot of different names inside of this text. I also see these things here. The quotation marks. Now, hold on. Don't get me wrong. There will be names in nonfiction text as well. We're just kind of seeing what's going on in this text, and we're going to put everything together. So to say, oh, I see a couple names here, this is fiction, those must be characters. No, we cannot do that. We kind of have to put everything together to be able to make an educated guess about what type of text this is. So I see a lot of different character names. I also see a lot of these here, quotation marks. Nonfiction texts do have quotation marks as well. But looking at how many are in here, I know dialogue where characters are talking, fiction should have a lot of dialogue where characters are talking with one another. So I'm definitely noticing that. I also notice how we have a lot of these tiny paragraphs, and these paragraphs I'm noticing are starting, many of them are starting with the quotation marks. And I know when we are writing narrative, every time a new character talks, we have to go ahead and create a new paragraph. That's one of the things we learned about narrative writing. So noticing how small a lot of these paragraphs are, and honestly, I'm scrolling through this. I see some like real things, like a library is real, posters, displays, computers, books, those things are real. But I don't see like a lot of like science-y topics, social studies topics. And it doesn't seem like it's like talking about the life of someone. It doesn't seem like it's telling me how to do something, which we know are all nonfiction texts. So I'm going to make an educated guess here. Here, let's clear off our page, y'all. I'm going to make an educated guess here and say that this is fiction. Now, I need to read my text to be able to say that for sure, but I'm going to say this is fiction. And I know that I could have fiction and have like a drama. It's a fake story that could be considered fiction. Or sometimes I might even think about poetry, which could tell a story. And different genres of fiction, I am going to say, just by looking at this, I think this is a story. So it is a fiction story. So now I know that the questions I need to be asking myself if I'm reading are: who are the characters? What's the setting? What's the plot? What's the theme? Or we know theme is the lesson, like what does the character learn from the story? So as I am reading now, I am thinking about these things. So I'm not going to think like, what's the author's main idea, or what's the author's claim, or what evidence does the author use to support its reasons. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about character, setting, plot, theme. That's where my mind is, okay? Now that I know the structure of the text, I'm going to go ahead and label my paragraphs. This is going to do a few things for me. One, if I'm reading for a specific purpose, like let's say answering questions, or I have a prompt or something like that that I need to respond to, a lot of times those prompts or those questions will say in paragraph 1, according to paragraph 2, based on the information in paragraph 3, or what is the main idea of paragraph 3 and 4 together. So I need to be able to quickly identify those paragraphs without having to go back and count each paragraph in the text. Now, what you will notice is that they do actually label a lot of these paragraphs here, which is awesome, but I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the gaps of the paragraphs that they do not label. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's, oops, I don't know what happened, y'all. Here's 5. That's 6, 7, 8, 9. This is a part of 9. I know this is a part of 9 because the paragraphs have these spaces 1, and I know a paragraph is a group of complete sentences. This is not going, a paragraph is not going to end at the word that, because this is an incomplete sentence. That was important to them. We know this goes together. So this is not a new paragraph. This is a part of paragraph 9. Then we have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that was easy because they did a lot of that hard work for me. So I can also use these numbered paragraphs. If this was nonfiction, I would use it to chunk my text. I would literally write like a little main idea or what's going on in each, after I read each paragraph. Now, I will say though, in nonfiction, typically the paragraphs are longer. I am not going to write a main idea or really think about that as much, since this is fiction. What I'm going to be following is that narrative arc. So I know a fiction story has a beginning, it has a middle, it has a end. And in the beginning, we usually meet the character, we learn what's going on, we end up coming across like some type of problem, a conflict, and then the problem ends up being solved, right? So I'm going to be looking for that. That's what I'm going to be highlighting. That's what I'm going to be taking note of as I read through this text. All right, y'all. So you are now ready to read that text by using our pre-reading strategies of thinking of the title, thinking about the genre, if the text is fiction or nonfiction, and then thinking about the text structure really helps us to really situate our brains, activate our background knowledge, and be ready to read that text. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So let's go ahead. You guys are going to master every text that you read using these pre-reading strategies. If you have any questions or if any part was confusing to you, please, please, please comment down below. And I will have a part 2 and 3 of this video where I also go through actually reading and annotating or taking notes of the text, as well as answering the questions. So I will link those up above. And I'll also put them in the description box of this video so that you can go ahead and follow through in that thread. I love you all and have a wonderful day.